Welcome to episode 243 of Silver Lining for Learning. I'm Chris Dede from Harvard University. With me are co-hosts Punya Mishra from Arizona State University, Lydia Kao from the University of Toronto, Kurt Bonk from Indiana University, and our guests. And I'm very excited about this episode. I think that India may be the most complex country in the world in terms of its educational system, because there are so many languages, there are so many people, there are so many municipalities of different kinds. And it's also, I think, one of the most exciting countries in the world in terms of all of the innovations that are happening and all of the models that are emerging, that are powerful. We've had past episodes of Silver Lining for Learning highlighting different kinds of innovations in India, and we're really excited to go with this one. So I met Vinnie at a conference last spring, and she was kind enough to agree to do an episode on the work of her work and her colleagues' work in Microsoft in India. So Vinnie, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. It's indeed an honor to be here. So I've been passionate about education almost 30 years in education. Started off as an academic after a PhD and a postdoc, and became a professor and a director of a business school, launched international journals, authored 13 books in the realm of services and innovation, over 100 research papers, and multiple accomplishments as a academic. And then did two stints in the corporate world. The first one was at HP Labs, where I was fostering research alliances with global universities for HP Labs. And then at Microsoft for last 11 years, leading worldwide programs in education, leading the world's largest skilling program in India, and fostering communities of educators and several lighthouse instances of leveraging technology in AI to transform students and teachers for employability and entrepreneurship. So right now I'm at Microsoft Elevate, and the priority is to put people first and empower educators and students in India.
Swati?
Hello, everyone. It's a real honor to be here, and thank you for that. So my professional journey has been incredible, like the country that I live in. I started my career as a teacher, and I became a principal of a very renowned school. I'm a special educator. Into the corporate world in 2013, I formed my company with my business partner, Joanna Technologies, and it just changed the entire gamut of what we do. Meeting and talking about education is the passion that I have always, grew up with, and I want to reach out to it. And we work also in the grassroots levels of India. So that's how we know how the transformation and making the students' future ready is what we look at.
And Meenakshi?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Meenakshi Uberoi, and I'm the CEO of Deep Pedagogics, but that's not how I like to introduce myself because I'm an educator at heart. I came out of the classrooms. I was never meant to be a teacher, became a teacher in 2003. Was one of those teachers when you have those students in your class and one of them is like really excited about doing something differently. I was one of those teachers and I got selected as a Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert way back in 2005. And I've been working on Microsoft tools. Then in 2010, Microsoft invited us to become, I was already out of the school. I had, I had Deep Pedagogics on my hand. My whole idea was that if if the IB system, because I was teaching by then in an IB school. So if an IB system can do it, I think any system can do it. So that was my urge to come out of the classroom, create an ecosystem where we can nurture education, literally very passionate about education. Then Vinnie invited us to become a partner with Microsoft. And I think the rest is history is what I'll call it, because we've done a couple of things. And I think within this hour, we will be spotlighting a few. So that's just me.
Well, thanks to all of you. And one of the big problems in India is scale. Vinnie, you shared some figures with me. I think I've got them right. 250 million K-12 students,
Yes.
almost 50 million post-secondary students, and
Yes.
probably 200 million people in the workforce who are actively looking for ways to upskill and reskill. It's really staggering. And a partnership with a company like Microsoft is important because to work at that scale, you've got to have deep pockets and a lot of technical expertise in order to make progress. So I'd love to hear each of you talk about the ways in which you've been able to leverage your partnership with Microsoft in terms of really being able to have an impact at scale.
Yeah, sure. Sure, absolutely. It's been such a remarkable journey, Chris, at Microsoft over the last 11 years. And when you operate in a country like India, and as you shared the statistics, it's an enormous scale at which one needs to operate, and not only operate at scale, but ensure equity of opportunity as well, and accessibility as well. So education is a fundamental right in India, and every child is entitled to that right to education, no matter urban or rural, whichever, across any 28 states or 8 union territories. So at Microsoft, I would say Microsoft is deeply invested and committed to the cause of education, and it resonates with the mission of empowering every individual and organization on the planet to achieve more. And with that as a fundamental mission, there are several things that have happened. Microsoft has deeply invested in educators, in institutions, and in fact, through its program of Showcase Schools and Microsoft Innovative Expert Educators, lighthouse institutions have been created where there is a shared vision between the school leaders and transformation, making students ready for the future, skilling them. And to accomplish those goals, the investments in educator skilling has happened. So there have been, over the last, I would say, 7, 8 years, almost 10 million teachers have undergone skilling in digital technologies, sharing best practices, creating communities of learning. And all this happened through robust partnerships with global learning partners like Deep Pedagogics, Jona, Tech Avant-Garde, so many of them who were identified, and each of them operated with multiple boards to drive skilling at scale. So with CBSE, for example, in just 2 years, 250,000 teachers were trained on AI. The other bit is that we invested in developing curriculum on AI, coding, data sciences, that was embraced not only by CBSE, which is one of the largest national boards under Ministry of Education, but also global international baccalaureate career path program as well for all the schools worldwide. So Microsoft invested in creating certification pathways for students and teachers, developers, working professionals, and all the content is available in public realm on MS Learn. Applied skill labs are available in public realm. Now that's investment of billions of dollars, and it's not that the content is just put at one go. It's regularly updated. It's aligned with job roles in the marketplace. In India, after grade 12 senior secondary school, almost, I would say 82% students drop out. Like they're not going in for higher education. Only about, 28% of the students enroll in higher education. So that means almost 78% tend to drop out or look out for jobs. So in that aspect, blended learning, technology platforms, partnership with edtech companies can enable reach to the farthest corner in India. And I think there is so much, and my colleagues will share here some of these specific interventions. But I would say, to sum up, mission, scale, partnerships, availability of content, certification pathways in local languages. So all the content that we got created is also available in local languages.
So if I can just jump in for a second, I think many of our viewers won't understand things like CBSE and so on. So when each of you is speaking, to give a little bit of that context. So CBSE, for instance, is a central board for secondary education. So that's the national level. Then every state has its own state boards. Then you have a whole different, the IB, so I think giving a sense of just the diversity of this thing
Yes.
called India,
So
right?
in India,
So
yes.
sort of just giving a little context. So maybe we'll start with you, Vinny, if you can give a little bit of that, and then when each of you speak, to give us shed a little bit of light on that, because I think that will help contextualize. It's one way of looking at India is that, okay, it's a lot of people, but it's a flat thing. No, it's the point, I think, of India is it's nothing is flat. Every community, every group, every state with a different, so on and so forth, right? Organizations. So giving a little bit of context will be very, very helpful, I think.
Sure, absolutely. So in India, education is managed both by the central government as well as the state government, and there are separate budget allocations. And there has been a new education policy that has been implemented. A new policy came in 2020 that enables and focuses on strong learning outcomes, leveraging tech. In India, in education segment, we have a Central Board of Secondary Education under Ministry of Education, under which there are 33,000 schools. There are also national chains like Kendriya Vidyalayas, which are spread across all the 28 states and union territories. Then we have Navodaya Vidyalayas, which are completely funded, not only the education, but also residential facilities as well for the students. Then there are tribal schools, which are called Eklavya model schools. Those are, again, massive investment to reach the remotest part and make education available. Then every state government has their own state board, under which you have, let's say, 10 million students maybe in one state, 20 million students would be in other state. And these government schools that come under the state boards are completely funded by the government. So books, midday meals for them, meals are provided, books are provided, uniforms are provided. And then, there is a lot of support on skilling as well, because the dropout rates are also high. So the attempt is to help them to get into higher education as well. So it's a complex system, but a lot of state governments also get funding from the central government, so that they can contribute to the mission of fulfilling the access to education, but also with meaningful outcomes as well. I think nowhere in the world like the amount of deep investments the government makes, and with over 250 languages, I think it's really a humongous contribution, and bringing more girl children to schools, and funding not only for school education, but higher education as well.
Thank you. No, that's very helpful. So the example I always give is like, a school district in the US will have like 10 or 15 schools. A school district in India, depending on where you are, it varies greatly. You could have at least 500 to 1,000 schools in a district. And so that's the kind of scale difference that we are looking at. So thank you. I don't want to go on more. So Meenakshi or Swati, whoever wants to go next.
Yeah. Should I?
Go on, please, go on.
I'll take
Yeah.
it. Yes. So just taking it forward from what Vinny said, in a country like ours, in this huge population, right? The future of education lies in including every learner and empowering with them with the tools of tomorrow, so that the future is secured. Skilling is a very major point from the government of India today. We believe that technology is the answer. It may not be the silver bullet, but yes, it is going to change. To talk about our partnership, Joanna Technologies with Microsoft, we started from 2014 and we have grown up and we have grown in size, in numbers, and reached millions of students and educators through various programs. We ran a lot of flagship programs for Microsoft, starting with the Classroom of the Future. That was a very, very novel idea under Vinny's leadership and with Microsoft support. We started educating the teachers on how to use technology. In a country like India, when we brought this technology factor, the teachers believed that, yes, now my jobs are going and tech is going to take over. This care was so much in them that it took us days and months to convince them to have a training. But when we started and when the teachers really saw that tech is not a replacement, but it's an enabler, we could go forward. We ran a program called Learning Without Limits. We took tablets as hardware to the classrooms, on the desks of the children in general public schools, to tell them that the world does not end with the textbooks. If you have the internet used wisely, you can go beyond limits. And believe me, we found thousands, dozens of schools taking up hardware as an option for the students to go beyond limits. We also did a lot of education transformation frameworks for school leaders, for the educators. They wanted a transformation in pedagogy, in curriculum, and also in the lesson plans. With the Microsoft and HP, we ran a program in rural part of Andhra Pradesh, in a small city like Guntur. We transformed the Zila Parishad schools of Andhra Pradesh, giving them a tech classroom, an advanced learning center, where the hardware was from HP, Microsoft software and tools. And believe me, the teachers did not even know how to use a mouse. So we used to play games for them to, hold the mouse properly so that they don't get distracted. We brought local content into their classrooms so that learning would have been easier. We ran also inclusive education. And I'm a special educator. I am trained by the Spastic Society of India, and inclusive education has always been my passion. So we brought, inclusivity. To bring inclusivity, we use tools. We worked with a Delhi blind school. We trained the teachers on how to use technology, and we also made the students code, right? And when the computer used to speak out aloud, there was so much of excitement in the class. We also worked with a chain of schools called Pallavanjali, which had a mixture of mainstream children and especially differently abled children. There, the teachers went so deep to learn about technology. The only reason was so that they could help the children reach the level where the other children are supposed to be. There were many challenges in India, right? But yes, tech did help. And now, lastly, coming to AI, we have developed a experiential kit of our own, so that we can give hands-on training, hands-on experience to the students in the classroom. Because our Indian textbooks talk a lot about theory. To bridge the gap so that the children are industry ready, we brought in our own experiential learning, which we call it as a Nexo kit. And there has been amazing, results where children have adopted, taken, and made, projects which have been recognized by the governments of various states also. We also worked with the state of Madhya Pradesh to develop their government schools. And if you can imagine, the infrastructure of the government schools have never been very good, right? To change the infrastructure, to make the mindset change, all right, because the government teachers are a different mindset, not the public school ones, the private schools. So that also took a lot of time, but we really could manage it. And what helped us also was the gamified learning of Minecraft. We brought Minecraft as a game-based platform for children to learn in the classrooms. And with Microsoft as a partner, we conducted the Central Board of Secondary Education, the National Coding Challenge. Lakhs of children registered, thousands of teachers learned, and it was an open platform where the children submitted their projects, and there was a huge culmination. And from a small state, like from a small city, or if you call it district of Tamil Nadu, there was a small child from class 6. He made a stick for the blind. He coded the microbit and coded it so that if the stick hits the wall, that at least there is some sound or some so that blind are not can overcome the obstacles. So there were various ways. Minecraft, this child made a Taj Mahal where the cleaning of the Taj Mahal was shared. I can go on and on, but I think there are many more examples. Yes.
Before I actually start talking, let me make a mention here that, whatever Swati has said, we've normally worked parallelly in various areas because the programs ran through the partners and we were working together. So I'll just add on to what Swati has just said instead of repeating what she's quoted. And also, I think I would like to take us, I think, put the spotlight that this has been happening for like years. Like I said, 2010 is when we joined hands with Microsoft, and that was the pre-pandemic era. Then there was no need for technology in classrooms. Half the times when you would talk to people, they would literally look at you as if, do we really need it, or is it just a fancy thing on the wall? So no, it wasn't a fly on the wall, and it actually, so that time itself, Microsoft was deeply invested in evangelism and looking at, building 21st century competencies in teachers. So we used to do large scale trainings for teachers where we were empowering them with these tools. It wasn't tools, it was digital pedagogy that we were talking about. Then came the pandemic, which actually looked at rapid adoption and resilience to be built. And I remember with the Army schools across India, more than 137 schools, we were sitting and training them remotely on synchronous and asynchronous ways of teaching learning. That was a huge impact that we could make. And we got a mention from the Chief of Staff, wife of Chief of Staff as well, to say the kind of impact that we've been able to deliver. Imagine people living in the remotest of the areas, where in the hills or deep inside near the borders where the internet availability is very limited. We were sitting and training these teachers on Microsoft Teams to be adopted as for both the models. Another model that I would want to really mention over here is that of Gujarat government. My team worked specifically with the Children with Special Needs Department. We empowered 74 special needs educators and 35 district coordinators. Now, these district coordinators, each of these are connected to, let's say, roughly about 40 to 50 schools. And imagine the impact, because with one teacher, you will have around 40 to 50 students. So imagine the kind of impact in just one state that we were able to create with simple tools like Immersive Reader from Microsoft, which could enable, not just reading it out to you, but reading in their own native language, whether it was Hindi or Gujarati, or translating to their preferred language, because there's Gujarat is an industrial state as well. So we had students and parents. There's a lot of movement. So other state students were also in these schools. So all of these that we've spoken about, and then of course, the national another a huge body of learning here is that of National Institute of Open Schools. So we collaborated with, NIOS and under Vinnie's leadership, and she literally led the path over there to train a cohort of about 40 to 50 master trainers who could actually roll out the program for students and teachers across the country. So we're not just talking about scale, we're looking at impact alongside. Yeah, I'm just going to pause here because I know we have more things coming in.
Sure, I can jump in here, Chris. That's okay? Okay. Just a week ago, I was presenting at the Open U of China, which is the other large country that's got millions of people in their university. I think the Indira Gandhi National Open University may be the largest university in the world, IGNU, and the
Yes.
Open U of China is right behind, where, as Punya says, a pilot study, unlike the US, a pilot studies of maybe 70 teachers in China and in India, pilot studies 250,000, It's interesting talking about scale. If anybody is watching or listening to the show and want to include it in their course, they're an instructor, the Open U of China show was number 206. That was Learning at Scale. And you might use these two particular shows and have your students talk about themes that they see across these two. We've had other shows up on scale, of course, over the past 5.5 years of Silver Lining for Learning. So you have many options to choose from. Back in 1989, when I took a job as a faculty at West Virginia University, the first thing they did to me was say, you could be the chair of the classroom of the future. And, but I left 3 years later. It took us 3 years to agree upon what that looks like. So I've heard various terminology used throughout here. You talk about digital pedagogy, you've talked about digital literacy, and you've talked about a classroom of the future. Fast forward to 2025, what does a classroom of the future look like? What does effective or innovative digital pedagogy look like, or digital literacy? Would any of you like to comment on that? Because I'm sure other people are charged with the same thing I was charged with almost 40 years ago, and we had no clue what to do at the time. Like I said, it took us 3 years to figure out how to spend the money that we got. We actually got money. We had a budget, but we couldn't get agreements, and that's typical, right? So can you help people today who are charged with creating either a classroom of the future, or to enhance student digital literacy skills, or to train teachers in digital pedagogy? Would you like to talk about any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think great thoughts, and I think we all can learn from each other and from the global experiences as well. I think when we talk about classroom of the future, today, if we incorporate cloud platforms as well as, for example, technologies like AI and data analytics, it can just take learning to a very, very different level. So how do we do it? So I think it's not just today about buying a piece of hardware and software and availability of internet, but I think the real question is how do we train students for the future? How do we build the right competencies? And AI can bring numerous contributions. The biggest one is, let us take different roles, like how does the role of a teacher transform? So a teacher, it's not AI. So AI can augment teacher capabilities. Let's say I want to take a session on sustainable development or climate change. And traditionally, teachers go through some of the lesson plans, the textbooks, materials, and some reference materials. And it takes an enormous task. Like if I want to bring in multiple regional examples, let's say within India or India, China, South Asia, Philippines, US, what's happening across the nations on climate change, which are the bodies that are contributing, what are the key opportunities, like so many things I would like to structure. So AI can help teachers to bring these perspectives together, solid learning outcomes, that's number one. Absolutely state-of-the-art content AI can AI co-pilot can help put that together with precise learning outcomes. I can have rubrics in place. There could be beautiful projects that could be instituted. Conventionally, a teacher may take so many hours to put things together. Here, once you define the data sets, the textbooks, research papers, leading sources of online information, it can extract information and put all of that together, create videos as well. That's enormous. The second bit is also personalization of the content. Like today, if I have a class where I have students speaking, let's say, different languages, and some of them are fluent in English, some of them are not fluent in English, but my medium of teaching, let's say, is English. So I can cater to a multilingual audience where the entire content can be disseminated in multiple languages at one click. And even if I'm teaching in English, but I want my students to learn in local languages, let's say Hindi, Portuguese, French, it may be Bengali, it may be Kannada, and a technology platform like Teams can enable transcription in local languages as well. So my assimilation is better. The third example that I would like to give is in terms of skilling opportunities as well. Today, tech platforms enable online projects that could be simulated without going to a physical lab somewhere. So no matter where you are, it helps. And there are several AI tools, like India as a nation still grapples with foundational literacy, numeracy as well. So attaining the proficiency that's required, let's say at grade 6 or grade 7 or grade 3. Today, AI engines like a tool like a reading progress, right? Which is an AI tool wherein you can give a paragraph or a lesson to read, and the software has intelligence in it that it'll capture the pauses, reading rates, pronunciation, unnecessary gaps, and it gives a feedback not only to an individual student, but as a cohort and at a school level, at a district level, so that teachers and administrators can get insights into what's the biggest challenge that I must solve for. And you can monitor it day by day, week, month. So imagine the power. So the teachers become super teachers. Technology is not replacing them, but making them wonderful teachers to engage in a manner that you can address the scale and all these nuances that I talked about. So a classroom of the future is very different. We have seen in Indonesia, for example, or in Taiwan, English language is being taught leveraging AI platforms. So 30,000 students are learning English using AI. Gamified AI use instances in Indonesia. Almost 450,000 students have access to personal AI tutor. In India, a lot of people take personal coaching, for example. And it's so much burden on the parents and students to take those extra classes. Imagine if you have a personal AI personal tutor where I have 5 subjects and I want to not only go to the school, but have additional questions and I'm shy of asking them. Or I'm very curious child and I want to ask 10 more questions on, for example, when I'm interacting with the subject, and the personal tutor answers for example, I can read those answers or it can talk to me in my language. How powerful is that? To have an ability to approach like a coach or a mentor and be able to discuss so much and be guided by it without investing so much in personal tuitions.
If I may just add to what Vinnie has said with a very, very small example, especially on the word digital pedagogy, I often get asked, because I use that word a lot, that term a lot. So I often get asked, when you say digital pedagogy, what do you mean? A very simple example of that would be teachers would use tools like PowerPoint to teach. So there are slides at the back, you're reading out and you're explaining the slides. That's just getting an excerpt from the book and explaining using that. The shift over here is that you're able to understand that you're not just to replicate or to make some flowers or something come on the slide or something interesting or moving. The core is that this should be able to deliver to you some kind of a value, some kind of a purpose that you're trying to drive through usage of these tools. So purpose-driven learning is something that's taking shape. For example, PowerPoint has this amazing power of helping you to be able to present better. So your presentation and communication skills can be built with just something as simple as a speaker coach. As I'm in a meeting, it takes, or if I'm presenting to somebody, it not just takes the way I'm speaking, it also analyzes my pauses, the language that I'm using, my body language, and it gives me a feedback. So that's a very personalized kind of a environment where I can learn, and it's all purpose driven.
Swati?
The country that we come from, it is not only about the elite schools that are there, right? It is also of the underprivileged or the remote corners of the country that are left behind. So we with the Microsoft tools and especially after COVID, when people started embracing technology, they realized that this was an enabler. We have been able to reach, and there are lots of examples, but keeping the time in mind, we have a foundation of our own, Ajwana Foundation, and we run physical centers to teach digital literacy to the children of the underprivileged, the community. So we have, a rug picker's son who comes to us and sits in front of the computer and just trying to type ABC, right? That spirit that it comes in. And we also have reached out to the LGBTQ community. So there, the skilling is also very, very important, right? And we have enabled them to use the Microsoft tools so that they can get at least a minimal, compensatory job, and people have started accepting them. And these examples are really on the grassroots, right? So classroom of the future is a term that can be widely used everywhere across, because what is classroom of the future is about using tech. And as I said, technology may not be the silver bullet, but it is a medium through which things can be expressed. And in a country like India, to change the mindset, to bring it to the grassroots levels, the millions of state boards, as Vinnie said, the languages, the medium of instructions, the teaching styles, the diverse learning styles, everything together can be, put it in a nutshell.
Thank you all. Lydia, do you want to jump in here?
Sure. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you for sharing all these wonderful examples of how teachers are leveraging technology, as you said, to be super teachers, to be better teachers. I'm curious to hear a little bit more example using the framing that Chris often uses, is doing conventional things better versus doing better things. Like, for example, delivery a lecture using video, it's doing conventional things better because we talk about scale a lot, you can now reach more learner, but the fundamental pedagogy didn't change. It's still teacher-centered and teacher-dominant pedagogy. So what are some interesting ways that you see in your work with teacher, how they are leveraging technologies to do better things?
Sure, wonderful question. And I think teachers are doing much better things. In fact, in India, we've seen, I think the fundamental shift that has to happen is it has to be student-centric learning. And it is not about a monologue or delivering a session either through a Blackboard or a PowerPoint, but it has to be project-based, hands-on learning where the experiences stay with the students for a lifetime. In India, in the state of Karnataka, which is where Bangalore is the capital of that state, and it's called the Silicon Valley of India, where a lot of tech and startups have happened. the government of Karnataka partnered for their early learning schools with Microsoft Research Labs and a non-for-profit, which is called Shikshana Foundation. And they kind of leveraged AI to transform the teaching learning practice. So the experiment started with 1,000 schools, government schools, where teachers were not speaking in English, but speaking in Kannada and doing the teaching. So the AI algorithms were used to create the conventional lesson plans that they were like, if they have to teach geography or they have to teach English or let's say sciences or social sciences, they leveraged AI tools to develop lesson plans, and they also leveraged AI to suggest interesting projects to teach those concepts so that students could interact and work with in teams, and also and use the local materials to drive those experiments as well. And teachers were delighted. We have a short video as well on that I would love to share with all of you. And it captures it so beautifully that within minutes, they are able to create lesson plans. They are able to start a session with a little experiment, whether it's about sound, leveraging local materials, what are the various kinds of sounds they hear, how do you understand pitch by using local experiments. And it is just wonderful and an awesome learning experience. And the experiment with the Karnataka State Education Board is being replicated across states, in several states. The other example is the usage of virtual science labs. You know, as a student of physics, I did my first master's in physics, and it was 4-year program, and we did complex experiments. And Archimedes principle is something that we've all learned in our early years. And virtual lab today just takes the understanding of science concepts to a very different level. So we have amazing solutions virtual in science labs leveraging AI, where, for example, if you have to teach Archimedes principle, you just don't narrate the principle and like just go on explaining the concepts through a video or a PowerPoint, but you actually show, let's say we go to the Black Sea, or let's say we go to the Caspian Sea and put a ship full of containers and start filling it up. And then at what level of weight will the ship start sinking? And you take it to another ocean. So as the specific gravity of the liquid changes, how does the displaced volumes also get changed? So one is to narrate a formula, describe the principle, and ask them few questions. The other is to create, imagine like a virtual experience where you're dealing with real life scenarios. Or let's say when you're showing chemical reactions, we can't bring gold and silver to the labs to show the reactivity of materials, but in a virtual environment, you can use materials that are otherwise not available. So I think sky is the limit for innovation, and we are seeing fascinating usage of a very innovative pedagogy, and not leveraging tech for the sake of tech, but leveraging tech so that our student can understand the complexities behind the real life scenarios, and these lessons stay with them for a lifetime. So bringing them closer to reality every single day.
Swati, you want to go or I'll go?
Yeah, I can take it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So, just to take forward from what Vinnie said, tech is not for tech, right? Tech is for ultimately for the learner. So we have a lot amazing examples of how Microsoft Copilot is being used, right? And how the teachers, they are so stressed. They have more than 40, 50 children in a class, diverse learning styles, languages, holidays, festivals. So, putting everything together, they are not able to manage the time. So how to tech is helping, especially in the local language, how they're able to automatically draft a lesson plan with the proper learning objectives, and finally getting to the point where they are able to derive the assessment of the child. It is not about rote learning anymore. It is also about experiential learning, hands-on. So every parameter needs to be, assessed. And Copilot is also helping in grading. We have seen teachers how it has helped in grading. See, when back in 90s when I was a teacher, there was no tech. Everything was on the blackboard, and that was the biggest tech that we used. But if I stand here and when I see the teachers using tech today, and so much of time has been, they can use their time so productively that it can just go on. And just to give this example of the Shiksha Copilot, right, which is on that Azure OpenAI, it is designed to assess teachers using the local language. Now, the National Curriculum Framework says, India says that the mother tongue or the local language is to be used. Now, how are the teachers going to do it? So, this is a real transformation that India is going through. And believe me, it is not the elite schools in the major cities, the major metros. It is also percolating down to the smaller cities of India. Yes, Meenakshi, over to you.
Thanks. And I think it's beautifully building up. And Lydia, let me bring this to just about 2 or 3 core examples, because we've already spoken about the rest. I'll give you a very simple example of a very strong and beautiful program that Microsoft runs. I spoke about it, towards the beginning of the session as well. And that is the community that they brew with Microsoft Innovative Educator Experts. These are amazing touch points. Each educator has a story to tell. They'll not tell you about the tool. They'll tell you about the impact that they've been able to create. To quote an example, a very simple example, way back 2009, I was in Pune. We were hosting for Microsoft, a Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert meet. And in that, I met one of the educators, which you might, Punya, you might have heard of because he's one of the Fulbright Fellows now, Rajin Deslay. So he has, from that little meeting that we had and the kind of takeaway that he could have from that session, he took it back to his school. He was an educator in one of the Zilla Parishad schools, which is like a kind of a school which did not even have a proper roof. What he did was he created QR codes for these amazing apps to be used. And that the scale was that, it was not just adapted by the state government, but adapted by NCERT, that is the National, Council of Higher Education and Research. So what they did was they just picked that idea of putting QR codes in every lesson plan where thousands of schools were impacted. So that's just one teacher trying to make a change. Similarly, we have, on the other hand, tools like Minecraft education, which are very impactful tools. And I have a student story there, which is very inspiring. I had a very small intent at heart. There are beautiful cultural stories that are hidden everywhere in our culture. And, I just wanted to highlight and not just celebrate festivals, but see the story behind it. So Dussehra is one of the festivals, in October, we are going to celebrate that. Every year we celebrate. But I think the essence of celebrating that festival was getting lost. And students were more into, especially in the urban schools, into using technology in fancy ways. So I threw open a challenge to say that if you could retell the story of Ramayana using Minecraft as a tool. And in Satpal Mittal School, Ludhiana, Namya Joshi and another student who actually created the game worked on Minecraft over months to create that game. It had such a profound impact on Namya Joshi that she became an ambassador for a student ambassador to take it to various countries, and she's now been invited by Finland, and she's now going to take her higher studies in Finland. So imagine the kind of impact that she created, not just locally but globally. And her motto is teach each one, teach 10. So that's a beautiful way of taking it forward. And I think in the interest of time, I'm going to contain it just 2 stories.
Thank you. Is that okay if I jump in a little bit here?
Sure.
So one of the things, one of the biggest challenges, it's part of the strength of the country, the beauty of the country is the rich diversity of languages, cultures. I'm from Odisha, my wife is from Maharashtra, and when she first came to Odisha, it was amazing how little people knew about Maharashtra and vice versa, right? And so AI has the potential in this space. We have given a couple of examples of how translation of content can happen, because that's a fundamental challenge. Anytime you build something in a certain language, then now you have to translate it into at least 30 languages and maintain quality and so on. So whenever I have played with translation with some of these tools, when I do a translation, let's say from English to, let's say, Spanish, or Portuguese or French, and I translate it back and I go take it to somebody who speaks the language to check the quality of the translation, it's beautiful. When I did it with Mandarin, when I showed it to one of my grad students, not so good. When we did Bengali, I was speaking one of my Bangladeshi students, and we were sort of doing this together. She said that the language was very stilted. It felt like her grandmother was speaking, because I'm guessing that most of the content on which these models have been trained, there isn't enough contemporary digital content, so it's been trained on, you know, older manuscripts and so on and so forth. So I'm just wondering about what kinds of challenges do you see in that space, and particularly in languages which have not had the privilege of being huge quantities of corpus of materials to be digitized? And how are you thinking about that challenge in particular? Because there is the worry of, and then I'm not even getting into issues of Western bias and so on in representation, all of those things that we can dig into. But particularly for India, I think the language one is it's a potentially a great solution, but that also requires these models to be trained on deeper and broader corpuses of data, which I don't think is necessarily happening. So I'm just curious to hear how you are thinking about this challenge.
Yeah, I would thank you for bringing that up, but I would like to share that a lot of investment on training on local Indian languages has gone in, and even preserving some of the older ones as well. There's substantial and massive investment there. In fact, I would like to highlight one of the key successful projects that Microsoft has done with Ministry of Education's accrediting body called All India Council for Technical Education. Microsoft partnered with them, and there is a app that has been developed, which is called Anuvadini, which in English means translation. Anuvad means translation, and that app translates multiple books, technical literature, medical books, engineering books in multiple languages into local languages. And the algorithms have been trained on multiple Indian languages, and it's not only Indian languages. In fact, they've ventured and tried that with foreign languages as well. So not only books getting translated into Indian languages at the click of a button, but also you can kind of interact with the books and the videos as well. So a video may be in, let's say, Chinese, or it may be a French video for learning, but it can be heard in a local Indian language. That's an enormous step forward. And in fact, there was a Bhashini project with the government of India that the Microsoft India public sector has also contributed to, wherein, the dictions, the training of algorithms have happened over multiple languages. And that's a very, very sound, I think, that has been a very, very positive step and an application as well. In fact, Microsoft Research Labs, again in partnership with a non-for-profit, which is based out of Bangalore, they were developing algorithms. Like, there are a lot of migrant workers who come to Bangalore looking out for jobs, but they can't speak the local language. They don't know where to get food, if they have shelter issues, or they want to learn more. And these are women who are working as laborers. Microsoft Research Labs, in partnership with with one of the foundations, worked with them to capture, like, they paid them very decent amount of money per hour basis to capture their language diction, so that the algorithm is trained in a manner that it can address and kind of respond to them in their local language. There are AI apps now being developed for farmers, where a farmer may speak, let's say, in Kannada, and he wants to, but the algorithm also responds to him in local language. He may not need to type, but he may hear the responses on a mobile. So I think there is substantial ground and investment that is happening. And and it is seen very positively. And we've seen a project with AICT where the government has made substantial investments to make the literature available and videos and learning materials available in local languages. I think that's one of our biggest strengths as well, I would say. And you must try that. I mean, they are even trying to do that and take that intervention at a global level. And there are a lot of institutions. There are almost, I think, about millions of students who are accessing these materials on a daily basis. And they're trying to power it up with AI further so that you can relate and ask questions and interact with the materials. Huge repositories that are lying with the government.
So I'm going to jump in here because we have a few minutes left, and just make a comment and have a question. Maybe one or two of you, maybe all of you could answer before we run out of time. A comment is I recently listened to a podcast show about the history of Microsoft. It was a 2 or 3 part show. And it must be exciting right now to be working with Microsoft in kind of a rebirth, right? You know,
Yes.
you are in the right place at the right time. And maybe in many aspects of your careers, you were in the right place at the right time, but you also structured your career in a certain way so you could be successful, and many people influenced you along the way. During the beginning of the show, we talked about you as innovative educators and innovative teachers, passionate educators, passionate leaders, distinguished leaders, and all. So what influenced you, the three of you, to become, distinguished leaders within the field, within India, and so forth? Are there any guiding lights that you'd like to pass along to people who are listening to this show, to especially young women, future leaders that you might influence, who are going to listen to the show 1 or 2 or 3 years from now? What would you like to tell them that inspired you along the way? We don't have much time, so maybe 30 seconds each or a minute each, and then we have to introduce the next show.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I think it's about having a lofty purpose in life, having a mission that transforms people's lives. And I think that's a fundamental passion that drives the affinity towards education personally for me. And I think if you have that lofty purpose and you see its impact, leaving positive footprints, I think all the energy comes in, and you want to foster the right partnerships, work at the right place, and do everything in your capacity to leave that positive footprint. I think it's such a positive feeling to be in a position of giving and making an impact and seeing the joyfulness of it every single day. And I think to me, education provides all this and more. And I feel it's life well lived every single day. I think you need to be passionate, and you need to do hard work and leverage all the right tools to make things, and things will come together for you.
Thanks, Vinnie. Swati?
Yeah. So since the time I've been growing up, I always wanted to be a teacher. So I became a teacher not by chance, but out of passion. And I became a teacher in an era where there was not much tech. Right, so it was we had to innovate our own learning, teaching aids and all. But when I came to the world of tech and saw how helpful and how productive time becomes, it became my mission that I need to spread the tools, need to spread the message that tech is not here to replace you, but tech is here to enable you. Right, use it in the right spirit, use it in the right possible way. It is just going to enable and make your life much more simpler and much more easier, so that you could give your best. Because most of us who become teachers have become teachers by passion, and we want to give our classroom, our students, the best that we could do. And it is the future of education is about training the next generation, right, bringing them up to that level. And tech is here, and that is how my passion is. And as a special educator, an inclusive classroom is what I always envisioned, and that is what I'm working towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi.
So I think you've heard it in our voices. We all are cut out of the same fabric, which is where we lead with passion, where we lead with purpose. And I think it is also about people. If you know something, if you've had that success point, please share it. Please engage more people. Tell others. For example, Tech Talk Tuesday for us is sacrosanct. Every Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. IST, we'll sit down, connect with at least 150 to 200 teachers. Imagine if we can roll out this year by year, and if everybody can collectively create that impact. It's not just us creating, but everybody doing that. I think the job is fairly done and done well.
Thanks for the P words, purpose, passion, and people. I ended my talk last week in China with 5 P words. So I was smiling when you said that. Chris will wrap us up, and then Punya's going to introduce the next show. But thank you all.
No,
Pleasure. Thank
I just want to thank the three of you. You are human lighthouses that really make a difference, and especially as women. We didn't get a chance to talk about girls' education in particular, but I know that it is a challenge in many countries, including the United States. And you are wonderful models. You are wonderful models for what someone who deeply cares can accomplish. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Punya, tell us about next week.
Yes, and again, just to echo what Kurt and Chris said, and I'm sure Lydia, if I can speak for you as well, thank you for joining, but more importantly, thank you for the amazing work that you do that is transformative in many, many ways, and hugely, hugely appreciated, and a lot of respect for that. Next week, we have, okay, let me contextualize slightly differently. So I am at Arizona State University. I've resisted the attempt to make every episode about ASU. Every once in a while, we do get an ASU episode. But one group that I've always wanted to bring in is this group called ASU Prep, ASU Preparatory Academy. Now, Arizona State University is an university, but it is also a university that runs a whole bunch of different models of schools, K through 12 schools. In fact, I found out, this is how crazy this is. I found out literally 3 weeks ago that there is a small high school called the Levitt High School, which was funded by Stephen Levitt, if you might know from Freakonomics, in the building next to my office building. There are 50 plus students who do project-based learning with a few teachers guided by their passions and interests. There is another school which is a partnership with the European soccer leagues. So these are the kids who have shown potential for soccer and they are being, but they need to go to school as well. Well, guess what? They come to Arizona and those schools have to be open to local children as well. And so you have this interesting models. So we could do multiple episodes on ASU Prep Digital and the work that they're doing. It's an amazing, amazing group. And fun story is I went and presented to the school that I didn't even know existed to the students. And I'm teaching a master's doctoral seminar this year. And I said, would anybody be interested in joining? 4 high school students are in my class today, along with a teacher, equal participants with master's and PhD students. So that's the kind of crazy stuff that ASU does. And so we have 2 guests joining us next week to talk about how these different models are being created. I think down the road, we would like to get some educators who work in these spaces to join us as well. So we have Megan Henley and Rachna Mathur, who will be joining us next week to talk about ASU Prep Academy and how they're building these different models. How do they create these partnerships? Because there's a bunch of those. And how does an institution, which is a higher ed institution like Arizona State, commit itself to the education of in the K-12 space as well? By the way, there's ASU Prep Global, so you could be anywhere in the world and take classes with ASU Prep Global K-12 school. So I think it's going to be a great episode. I'm looking forward to that. It will be at our usual time, which is noon Eastern next Saturday. And I hope you guys can join us for that. And once again, thank you so much for taking time. I know it's late in the evening there. Thank you very much.